Number 4, it's 5-Q-25-RZ, a request of Taylor D. Forster for rezoning from A agricultural to PR plan residential up to 10 dwelling units per acre. Properties located at 1439, 1445, 1447 Ebenezer Road, parcel ID 144-096-097-095, part of, in the 4th Commission District.
Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Present.
Thank you. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes. Taylor Forster, 1111 North Shore Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37919.
Thank you. We do have opposition signed up for this. Director Brooks?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the PR plan residential zone up to 10 dwellings per acre because it's compatible with the surrounding development and consistent with the Knox County Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you. Mr. Forster, you have 5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Here on behalf of the property owner, this property consists of, it's 3 separate parcels, and as noted, there's an existing veterinarian clinic that we've carved out. In discussion with staff, we initially submitted for the PR for the entire 3 parcels, but realizing that would create a non-conforming use with the PR zoning and the continued operation of the veterinarian clinic. So we've carved that out. This land use designation is suburban residential. PR is considered a partially related zoning under the suburban residential at a density of anywhere from 1 to 2 dwelling units an acre up to 12 dwelling units an acre. The property owner is seeking to rezone the property in order to develop a townhouse development on these tracts here. Had a lot of discussion about it in meeting and considering the options and what would make sense here, considering the area, what type of infrastructure would exist, across the street in reasonable proximity. As you recall, as part of the Advanced Knox process, there was a focus on preserving the rural areas and supporting density in areas that had, the adequate infrastructure that where it made sense, whether it's infill density or just areas that were already served with adequate utilities. Again, the roads were suitable for denser types of development. Obviously, when you're reducing development and density allowed in the rural areas, that's going to leave a shortage that to even consider be on the same path moving forward, it has to be made up somewhere else. Obviously, we are well aware of the housing shortage and the need for more available units online to be purchased, to be lived in based on the growing population of Knox County. Again, a key focus when considering development and density associated with it is the existing infrastructure that's in place. Here on this part of Ebenezer, there's 5 lanes. On each side of Ebenezer, there's wide sidewalks that continue for considerable distance. Also, you have immediately across the street, as it's noted on the map there, there's a commercial development there with, I know it has at least 2 restaurants in it and 2 or 3 other businesses. That's a more recent approval. So again, considering location, what's around it, you've got commercial immediately in the vicinity. There's other commercial nodes and areas in either direction. There's an elementary school, Bluegrass Elementary, approximately say 1 block to the south. Again, part of that Advanced Knox process and one of the key policies was housing options and a wide range of different types of options. Obviously, this area does have a lot of detached single family. We think a growing market demand for a townhouse type of development definitely makes sense here. This property obviously has a lot of frontage that extends along Ebenezer, which provides even more support for a townhouse type of development where you have, if you consider that a more intensive use than your traditional single family, it would serve as a buffer between Ebenezer Drive, which has the 5 lanes, and then the single family residential neighborhoods that are located to the rear of this property. As mentioned previously, as part of the comprehensive plan, one of the, I think it's implementation policy 5 is to support developments where several amenities are located, as I mentioned, the commercial across the school and the proximity of the Ebenezer Elementary School, which is, like I said, about a block away. As noted, the staff report, the planning staff did support this request. We met with staff and discussed our plans here and our proposed density and the type of development that we wanted to occur here. I've got, this is just conceptual purposes of what, not necessarily what these units would look like, or these townhouses, but just kind of to create a visual, to kind of offer shed some light on the type of units that we're considering here. They'd be two-story townhouse units, and again, think it's appropriate infill density where there's adequate infrastructure and other amenities to support it. I'm very familiar with this area. I live off the North Shore, not too far from here, and frequent this area. Traffic is not an issue. I believe there's maybe even some infrastructure improvements that are going to occur at some point. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first speaker is Laura Repka. She's not here? Okay. Megan Potts. Ms. Potts, if you'll give your name and address for the record, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Awesome. Thank you. My name is Megan Potts. My address is 8845 Mallow Drive in Bexhill subdivision. I'm grateful that you all have this map up here because you can see that all the surrounding parcels are single dwelling units. 97% of the Ebenezer corridor is developed, with 90% of those developments being 3 units or fewer per acre. My neighbors and I feel that 10 units an acre is too high a density and is not compatible with the surrounding units. As you can see, and if you zoom out, the picture is even greater with the units or with the neighborhoods that are there. Bexhill, Willow Bend Estates, Morton Villas condos, Highbury Way, Bluegrass Bend, and Weston Place are all single dwelling units with up to 3 an acre. We see 5 units an acre, but very few on the Ebenezer corridor. Mr. Forrester brought up the schools that's a block away. I realize that this is not in your purview as commissioners, but that school is overcrowded, grossly overcrowded. I don't want to spend too much time on that because I know that's the school board's responsibility. From the planning report, it would be an additional 679 trips from those units leaving. And as you can see, the intersection at Bexhill and Gatwick Drive surrounding that commercial development, if you're turning left out of those intersections, it's dangerous. And in the traffic study that was done, both of those intersections received a D or lower for leaving the area. My neighbors and I are not unreasonable. We know that the property can be developed. We're just asking you that it's fewer than 10 units per acre. And I heard Mr. Forrester say it was up to 12. So we would like to see it compatible with the surrounding area. That's what we're asking you, is to follow what Planning Commission has stated is required for rezoning. And that's that it's compatible with the surrounding area, doesn't have a negative impact on the community, and it would. I use that road to run. My neighbors use that road to walk their children to school. It would be a significant safety issue for more units, 65 units, to be in that space. I would also ask that you all consider your role as county commissioners to preserve the established character of the community, because Ebenezer Corridor is a long-established community, and the character that we're trying to protect is that we have reasonable development. 65 units on that piece of land is not compatible with the surrounding area. And I would ask that you all decrease the number of units per acre, please.
Thank you, Ms. Potts. Last speaker on this is Mallory Matula. Not here? Okay. All right. Mr. Forster, do you have anything else that you want to add?
I guess just briefly as to the existing development that's in the area. Obviously that was all developed out prior to the new adoption of the comprehensive land use plan. Some of those developments 20, maybe 30 years old, and at that time, operating under this sector plan in place, the maximum density that something could be developed was at 5 units an acre. So again, operating under the new comprehensive land use plan, that would be our basis of why 10 makes sense here, the distinction being that was under an old plan and development that occurred years upon years ago. Thank you.
Do any commissioners have any questions or comments? Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question about the school issue. What's the expected addition to the school population?
So in the staff report, it notes an estimated student yield of 27 students, K through 12. Obviously, elementary school is, I guess, K through 5. So my opinion, that would be a negligible increase when you consider that yield is factored across 3 different school brackets.
Do you have a response to the point of that this would be outside of the community character? If you take a larger view of the entire community, this is you're requesting much higher density than 3 per acre, 5 per acre.
I don't think it's out of character when you consider the area as a whole. Like I said, you got the commercial down the street. There's other new developments going in. One close to the elementary school. There's a multifamily going in on that property. Again, I think a attributable distinction here is the fact of being right on Ebenezer versus accessing a neighborhood through like a boulevard type entrance off of Ebenezer or some other road from Ebenezer going into a subdivision. It's direct access frontage, pretty much the entire length of the tracks. Thank you.
Commissioner Frazier?
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I first want to thank Commissioner Jackson for hosting a community meeting, and I want to apologize to those who were in attendance. I was out of town, but I've been following this request very closely, and I do have several comments. First, community character was among the top 4 priorities expressed by participants in the advanced Knox process. The adjacent community character is at most 4.5 units per acre. More than doubling that to 10 units per acre, in my opinion, is out of character and form with existing built-out single-family residential development. The Ebenezer Road corridor from Westland to Bluegrass encompasses approximately 645 acres. As she stated, Ms. Potts stated, 97% of that corridor has been developed. And of those, 90% is built out at 3 units or less and is single-family detached residential in character. Next, while we would like to allow and encourage greater density where appropriate and as proposed, our zoning and subdivision regulations don't yet have design standards for making more dense housing compatible to existing single-family residential developments. Our ordinances were written back in the 60s, and this is another example of how old zoning ordinances can be in conflict with the new plan, thus making it critically important to review closely each rezoning request. The UDO will hopefully address this, but because the zoning regulation today doesn't provide that, and Planning Commission has repeatedly stated that they are not willing to impose requirements on development plans that aren't explicitly in the zoning ordinance, I cannot support the requested density. Another point, the suburban residential place type allows rezoning considerations of up to 12 units per acre. That is a major change from the prior equivalent low-density residential, which allowed up to 5 units per acre. This further exemplifies that until our zoning ordinances are updated, we are going to see some conflict between the new plan and old zoning ordinances. Yes, supportive infrastructure is in place, but aligning the density would not be considered sprawl in this area. No parks in walking or biking distance. That means middle and high school students will have to ride buses or be driven by cars. The rezoning request creates an irregularly shaped remaining lot of the animal hospital, which in the future could be problematic. Further, I would like to see the rezoning request limited to only single-family detached or single-family attached because it is most compatible and appropriate. Lastly, the Knox County Commission, we are not responsible for maximizing property value. We are responsible for making good planning decisions, and I'm just not convinced that 10 per acre is a good fit here.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Turn it over to Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, Mr. Forrester, for putting together the community meeting. That is not something that is required by any means, and it's something I asked of Mr. Forrester to do for the community. And I learned, several things that are going on in the community. And as was mentioned, we've got the three top things that were complained about were schools, the speed of traffic, and not fitting with the community. So let me just discuss. I met with Catherine Bike with the school board regarding the overcrowded Bluegrass schools. There's three things that are going on that are going to alleviate some of the pressure of Bluegrass. And yes, it is, it is crowded, just like a lot of our schools in our county. We have a lot of people moving in, but this is a macroeconomic issue that we're dealing in the county, is that we have more graduating seniors than we do incoming kindergartners. So we actually have a shrinking population slightly in our Knox County schools. Second thing is that we are building right now the Farragut Elementary School, which will rezone, a lot of our school zone, and it will take a little bit of pressure off of Bluegrass. And then, Mr. Snowden, I wanted to ask you about the infrastructure. Do we have adequate infrastructure for this development? I know Advanced Knox was all about making sure that we developed with higher density along the thoroughfares and major arterial roads, as long as there is adequate infrastructure. Can you talk about that and the speed of traffic and any accidents?
Sure, be glad to, Commissioner Jackson. Ebenezer Road, I believe it's a minor arterial in our system. When a lot of those subdivisions, Bexhill, Bennington, Granada were built, this road was 2-lane. That's really the growth around this is why that in the mid-90s the county did invest a lot of money and improved it to 5-lane. On the south end, the road carries about 13,000 cars a day. Near this location, it's carrying about 16,000. And then as you get close to Kingston Pike, it's close to 20,000. And those are big numbers, but based on the lane capacities, we don't foresee that to be based on, I think, if they fully developed, it'd be, somebody said, 60 somewhat units, give or take. That's roughly 700 trips. I don't foresee that creating any issues that would present from a volume capacity perspective. The crashes, we did look at that pretty closely. There have been some pretty severe crashes out there, but weighing those against those volumes, we look at what's called a crash rate, and that crash rate is the state publishes average crash rates based on, okay, this road looks like this. It has so many lanes. It has a certain character to it. This road here actually has a less than average statewide rate. So the state would assume that there's going to be so many crashes on this road. We actually, based on the crashes we looked at over the last 3 to 5 years, that crash rate's half that. So we actually did some speed studies out there. The operating speed is around 46 miles an hour. I believe it's posted 40, I think. I believe that's correct. So we like to see that operating speed within about 5 miles an hour of the posted speed limit. So that was a good sign for us. So Based on the objective data that we look at, volume, crashes, and speed, I do not see that the addition of these lots as proposed would create significant challenges to the roadway as it exists today.
Thank you. One of the things, we had during the meeting, and people came up to me and have called me, I've had numerous calls and emails, and the common question I get is, why does this development have to be here? And let me be honest, I hear that with every district and in every school zone. Why does it have to be here? Why can't it be in another district? And that is a common and understandable reaction. But if we always say not here, then we leave ourselves open to never saying yes. So let me talk about Ebenezer Road. I drive it all the time. I live in 4th District. It is a 5-lane arterial road with a turn lane. It's already equipped with all the infrastructure, and it can build to handle thousands more cars. It's built to equip the same traffic that Kingston Pike has. And let me say this clearly to my other commissioners. We recently approved 2 developments in Commissioner Lee's district for similar density, but those were on 2-lane road. And in Commissioner Hill, we zoned at 10 per acre, just like this one. The difference is both of those were on much lesser traveled roads with less infrastructure. So for me to vote against this project in my own district with better infrastructure in place is disingenuous to my other commissioners. I wouldn't ask my fellow commissioners to support something in their districts that I would not support in mine. And remember, if we say no to development where infrastructure already exists, the need for housing doesn't go away. We just push it farther out. We cause more sprawl, longer commutes, and more expensive infrastructure. Meanwhile, housing becomes less affordable. Right now, a median income household can only afford 15% of the homes on the market here. That's not sustainable. We've already seen what happens when communities shut down growth. Loudoun and Morgan counties, they have anti-growth policies. And now they've had to raise their property taxes well above Knox County just to keep up. That's the cost of saying no. I want Knox County to grow with intention. That's why I support requiring, as we get into this UDO, additional green space, making sure we have adequate pocket parks when we have high density, and reforestation in new developments. But as Commissioner Frazier pointed out, we're not there yet. We can grow and still preserve what our community feels like home. William Faulkner said it wrote in The Sound and the Fury that clocks slay time. Only when the clock stops does time come to life. Freezing time does not protect a place. It will only hold us back. As a commissioner, I want to err on the side of being welcoming and inclusive to my neighbors and my new neighbors who want to live here. I want to work on supporting policies that strengthen our tax base and not weaken it, and that lessens the burden on existing taxpayers. Leadership means taking the long view. It was easy for me to vote no to this when I had people yelling at me and calling me and emailing me. But that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here because my daughter won't move back to Knoxville because the housing here is so much more expensive than other areas. I want to do what's best for the families that are here now, but also the families that will be here in 50 years. That takes courage, and I'm committing to leading with that courage. With that said, I do want to add I'm going to make a motion for this, but I'm going to add a couple of requirements here. Is that, one of the issues that I do have is that there's not adequate green space. When you have dense development, there needs to be somewhere for children to go, even if it's a small pocket park. And I want to require the zoning change to require the development of a quarter-acre private pocket park, dedicated private amenity for the use and enjoyment of residents and property owners. The applicant is to design, construct, and convey to the HOA a quarter-acre pocket park within the development, subject to the following conditions: that it will occupy a minimum of a quarter acre, 10,890 square feet, and it will be situated to ensure convenient access for residents within the development. And then also, I want to make sure that we have a barrier to protect from other subdivisions, and I want to require that we plant green giants 6 feet off center as a barrier on each side.
I'll second that, but with a clarification on the pocket park. So that is it just green space or is there playground equipment? Like what do you consider a pocket park?
Well, so I've gone back and forth on this, and I think I would like to leave it up to the HOA to make that decision.
So essentially just a quarter acre of green space for them to decide.
Quarter-acre green space.
I second that motion.
Thank you. Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make sure that the body understands my perspective on this. As I stated, I agree there is supportive infrastructure in place. That's not my argument. My argument is that through Advanced Knox, we heard more about maintaining and preserving community character and aligning intentional development with existing built-out, long-time residential development. And so I'm coming from a perspective of I'm for development on this piece of property. I'm just not in support of the density. And I think you can accomplish that by reducing the density. You still get housing. You can still include your conditions, but it aligns in character and form. So I just wanted to clarify.
Thank you. Commissioner Jay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a question for Commissioner Jackson. The HOA is not constituted until the development is done. So we've talked about this before. I'm always concerned about putting specific conditions about what your vision for a park is versus anyone else's. And the HOA, if that condition stays on there of a quarter acre of private green space, whoever develops that will leave a quarter of an acre of grass, maybe. And then one day, after they're long gone and all those homes have been sold and they turn it over to the HOA, then your intention is you hope that the HOA will go, great, we got a quarter acre of land, let's put some benches and some playground equipment, which I think would be lovely. But they have no requirement to do it either, and you're gonna put a financial burden immediately on the homeowners to put in infrastructure. Does that, this is why we've struggled with like reforestation plans. Like if we have a policy that says you must do X, that's one thing for the developer or the property owner or whoever will be the owner. But if we don't, so if you're okay with a quarter of an acre of grass just being set aside.
So let me just ask Mr. Snowden. Mr. Snowden, is this enforceable?
What is enforceable? An acre of grass, a quarter acre of grass, or that they have to have a playground and 2 benches?
Well, based on that, we would require at least a quarter acre of open space. I mean, that would be the enforceable part, yes.
Yeah, and when we get through the Unified Development Ordinance, hopefully we will have everything written down that specifies what would be required. But, as of right now, like Commissioner Frazier said, we don't have it in place yet. But I do believe that it's upon this body that we have the right and the ability to write in certain things that our community needs. And our community, this area is a park desert. There's no real parks anywhere nearby. This is just something that we can provide, just a little bit of green space.
Okay, so your motion is to approve at 10 units an acre with a tree buffer, which is something we do all the time between the north and south and west neighborhoods?
Correct.
So 3 sides, and setting aside a quarter acre of green space to be figured out what it's gonna be way down the road, but it's a quarter acre of grass.
I'll leave that up to the developer, and I think if a developer is going to be building nice things, he would want to provide something that's a nice amenity to the subdivision, and we'll see what that person does.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is one that I've kind of struggled with, or not struggled with, but going back and forth. Because obviously, I'm frequently dealing with rezonings, and they come, and some are contested, some are not, but when they're contested, it gets to be pretty touchy. And we'll have a couple later. But to echo Commissioner Frazier's sentiment about the character of the area, looking at it, yes, it is not 10 units an acre built out. But you do have the infrastructure. And so if everything was built out to similar density, you have the infrastructure where I'm constantly dealing with, we don't have places to shop, we don't have places to work. People have to drive 30, 45 minutes to get to work. They have to ride a bus 30, 45 minutes to get to school. They have to drive to go walk somewhere. We don't have an overabundance of parks in the 8th District either. We have a total of really 2 major grocery stores, 20 miles one end to the other. But yet, month after month, we say, oh, we need more housing. Well, it makes sense to put it here. Let's put it in the 8th. This particular location, where Ebenezer, according to Mr. Snowden, said this sees about 16,000 trips a day. As some of my colleagues would understand, the section of Washington Pike from Murphy Road to the interstate sees about 20,000 trips per day, and that's a 2-lane road, right? But yet, we're still putting out housing and rezonings in Gibbs and down Washington Pike, right? Here it makes sense. There's places to shop. There's places, there's sidewalks. There's public transportation. There's places to, yes, there are distances for parks, but you have everything else here. So why not put the higher density here? For me, the rub comes when you have, the public and the neighbors engaged, and they said this is not characteristic. They're open. Obviously, it'd be the pot calling the kettle black if they said, we don't want any development because everything else is developed. But I am struggling with the density a little bit as well, just because it's out of character.
May I make one comment, Madam Chair? So it is correct. If you look at the, surrounding neighborhoods, that you definitely do have somewhere between 3 to 5. But if you go to if we were going south on Ebenezer there, you have a brand new multifamily apartment complex going in. And then if you went north on Ebenezer, then you would eventually come to Westland Drive, where you also have hundreds of multifamily. So, the area, Planning Commission did recommend that it does fit the area because density is moving into this area.
Commissioner Hill?
Thank you. I believe the speaker, Ms. Potts, I appreciate so much that you coming and having your say and having it so appropriately. And quite truthfully, the community meeting that we went to was anything but, as you know. And that's regretful. The truth of the matter is, the community members that were at that meeting are going to be mad at 5 per acre. They're just going to be mad, and that was very much the attitude I feel like was presented. Myself, Commissioner Oster, Commissioner Russell, and of course Commissioner Jackson were there, and I agree with you, Commissioner Frazier, that it's a lot, and I agree with you too that we are in such a no man's land in between what we're getting ready to do with our UDO, but we're not quite there yet. In the meantime, though, I do think there was a lot of thoughtful planning put in to the plan that we voted on, and it's been hard to support it because I've had to do it in my own district. I mean, just last month we voted on the 10 per acre, and there was nothing like it around there. So it's a tough pill to swallow. We do keep going back though to infrastructure in place. It doesn't get any better than Ebenezer Road. 4 lanes and a turn lane. It's got a sidewalk. It exits on one end to Kingston Pike, which is also 4 lanes, a turn lane, sidewalk. It exits the other end at North Shore, which I think at that particular area is also 5 lanes. So as far as that goes, that can't even, that's wonderful. In my neck of the woods, if we had that, that would be wonderful. So I do support this, not because I'm crazy about 10 units per acre. I support it because just on today's news, we had another article, another report about today we are 10,000 dwelling units short in our area. You can believe that or not, but I do support Commissioner Jackson. It's like, you want your kids and grandkids to be able to stay here. And the truth is, this townhouse community is exactly what our young people are drawn to anymore. And it does typically have a lower price point than a single family home does. So because it is a part of our new plan, even though the density does make me wobble a little bit, in my effort to try very hard to stick to the future growth plan, I do support this too.
Thank you. Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to point out, Commissioner Jackson, you just mentioned that you have new multifamily options in your district to the north and the south, correct? Yeah, correct, sure. I would also like to say that I live in a community that has experienced these types of challenges where road capacity had not been met and higher density was put into places that did not align in character and form. And I hear about it all the time, and I drive by it all the time. And I just like it very much, and so do my neighbors. So if there are folks who are looking for products like this in densities like that, I encourage you to come out to Hardin Valley, move to the 6th District. This is just not appropriate here. And as I go back to say, yes, the infrastructure is there. I am not arguing that the infrastructure is not there to support it. It does not align in character and form, which was one of the top 4 priorities in Advanced Knox that we heard all across this county. So what I'm saying is maybe higher density is more appropriate in other areas in your district or in other districts, period. It doesn't mean that the product that could be the outcome of this request isn't going to happen somewhere else, because it's happening in my community. So those are other thoughts for consideration that I just wanted to bring up.
Thank you. Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a question about sidewalks for Director Snowden. I mean, there's sidewalks there right now. What's the obligation on the developer, if this were to be approved, to maintain this sidewalk access?
As far as, his internal subdivision or internal street, we wouldn't require sidewalks in there. We would obviously require him to, put an entrance in that maintained a safe crossing across the roadway, but he wouldn't be responsible for any sidewalks internal to his site per se, if that's what you're asking, sir.
I'm talking about going along Ebenezer, because there's sidewalks in those stay.
Yeah. There wouldn't be any ask of the applicant to improve any sidewalk, because there is what we would consider to be adequate pedestrian facilities that are existing.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having been in this particular position before, where you're looking at a piece of property and you can go higher density or lower density, and there's a lot of public engagement. We're talking about 6.5 acres. In the grand scheme of things, about a shortage of housing, 6.5 acres is not moving the needle one way or the other. Whether it's 10 units, 5 units, 1 unit, it's 6.5 acres. And so, Commissioner Jackson, you're sitting in a very peculiar position because obviously the community is very engaged, and this will be one of many applications that will come across. And so you're the district commissioner. You know best of what suits your district the best. We don't, applications come and go, and sometimes they don't go the way the applicant wants, and then there's another applicant that comes along for the same piece of property. And so it's really up to you what you feel is best in your district with this. So, but yeah, 6.5 acres. Commissioner Lee and I later on, we're going to have a couple that 40 plus acres combined that we're going to look at, and so, but none of it individually moves the needle one way or the other, particularly when we're looking at 6.5 acres. So,
Commissioner Fox,
I'd like to defer, and I'd like to hear Commissioner Russell's comments first, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes, I think everyone up here knows that typically I support 100% the district commissioner. I don't think I've really ever gone against a district commissioner, and I just think that is they know the area best. On this particular one, I have a great deal of respect for Commissioner Jackson. I'm not going to oppose it, but in all good consciousness, I can't support it either, so I will be abstaining from voting on this because I just don't think that I can support 10 units an acre with so much community opposition.
Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Like Commissioner Thompson, I've changed my mind like 3 times since we've been talking about this, and I acknowledge the statements by Commissioner Frazier, and of course, fundamentally, I am against high-density development. On the other hand, I know how frustrating it can be when you, as the commissioner for your district, think you know what's best for your district, and then you get outvoted. So, and that's happened to me a number of times. So I think on that, and because Commissioner Jackson was elected by his constituents, that this is between him and them when it comes to being accountable for this particular initiative. And so for that reason, I am going to be supporting Commissioner Jackson's motion.
Thank you. Can I just say something, Commissioner Jackson?
Just one thing,
Yeah,
and then
go
you
ahead.
can have it. I just wanted to tell everybody, if you want to know what my Bible is, it's called this book. It's called Stuck. And it's about how progressive liberals destroyed the upward mobility in California and New York City through having a small but vocal group of people who stopped development. And when we stop development, it becomes, and they use the example of the West Village that they stopped development in the 1960s. The average apartment townhome in the West Village now is $6.8 million. When in the 1960s, people who lived there were meat cutters and factory workers. And that is what happens when we become overly restrictive. And I was voted in, and I ran on a campaign of making sure that we increased our housing stock along our major thoroughfares, putting higher density along the major arterial roads and protecting our existing neighborhoods off of the major arterial roads. This is 6 acres right on a 5-lane highway. It's a major arterial road. It fits the policy. It fits the plan. That's why I'm in favor of it.
I just want to say really quick, I want to thank Ms. Potts. You were very kind to speak, and you did very well. It was not an easy meeting for Commissioner Jackson. That was a tough one to cut your teeth on. But I'll be supporting this because it is along a major corridor. For maybe some people who aren't familiar with Ebenezer, you've got apartments, you've got restaurants, you've got shops, you've got office buildings, you have got, I think Weigel's is going in, you have, I think there's a childcare down the street, if I'm correct. So I think with this property and where it's located, it makes the most sense to do this. And I know that the people aren't happy about it, and it's certainly not to go against them. It's just saying that this is what we're looking for in the areas that can handle this kind of traffic. And so, and we also, some people get kind of tied up on single family and that kind of stuff. Not everybody wants to be in a single family home. And we have to remember that. That's not our choice as commissioners to say it needs to be single family or not. And just my last statement is, people are always saying we're making room for people moving here. I'm not necessarily trying to make room for people moving here. I'm trying to keep our people here. And that's a problem. And you can ask me that when I have 5 first-time buyers that can't buy anything because the prices are so high and it's not sustainable. So we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jackson and a second by Commissioner Durrett. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
No.
I abstain with great respect for Commissioner
We have a
Jackson.
pass by Commissioner Russell and a no by Commissioner Frazier. The motion passes. Thank you. I hate to call Mr. Davis out,